Tati and my mother used to always keep themselves engaged in some activity or other. In fact, my mother used to rarely watch TV. And one of the things they would engage in, they would take to doing when they were done with all other things and they had nothing else to do, was to take a diary and draw columns in the diary. And I used to be in school then, and when I used to watch them draw these columns in diaries, I used to strangely feel like they were immersed in solving some complex mathematical problem. Years later, now I realize that I wasn't far from the truth. Columns are now a prime subject of study in the field of ethnomathematics, covering principles like Fibonacci, fractals, point lattices, and array grammars. And you know what? Included in this set of study is also another art form, which is not from India, but from regions of Angola and Zambia, which is called Sona. And you know what? It is identical, it is exactly the same as dot columns. The only difference being it is traced with the finger on the sand to create these infinite loops. Fascinating, no? And similarly with the Kerala column, right? So remember I told you the manifestations of these expressions vary across different regions. So columns are made of dots, lines, curves. Like the one that you see on the floor is a pulli column or a chikku column made of dots and lines moving around it. And the alpana is made of motifs. Some of the columns also carry motifs of paisleys, lotuses, and the Kerala columns. So in Kerala, the most popular are the Pookalam, which is made around the time of the Onam festival, where massive Pookalams are made. But they also have the ritualistic columns, which are made at shrines and altars. And unlike other variations of this art, which is mostly traditionally practiced by women, in modern times, of course, there are a lot of men also who have taken to creating columns or columns or rangoli. But the ritualistic columns that are done to invoke a deity are always done by men. So these ritualistic columns in Kerala that are done by men have a very strict set of regimen where certain geometric patterns are done accompanied by very specific chants associated to them. They also contain motifs or symbols occasionally, and they are always created with all things natural and organic, including rice flour, turmeric, and kumkum to add color. And the colors also symbolize different things. And these are also very purpose driven. So a specific column, a pattern accompanied by a very specific chant is done at a home where perhaps someone is suffering from ill health. So this ritual is done for good health. Or maybe a house is facing monetary loss, financial loss, one after another. So this ritual is done to counter that. Now, a very similar healing ceremony is practiced by the Navajo tribe. The Navajo people are a native Indian tribe from the southwestern region of America, USA. And the Navajo tribe has this shamanic healing ceremony, which is also done by men, where colored sand is used accompanied by chants or songs to make very specific motifs or symbols on the ground, and this is part of their healing ceremony. They call it Iika. Similar practices of sand art on the floor, on the ground, also exists in the Oaxaca region of Mexico, and this is called as the tapete de arena, or which translates to sand rug. This is an ongoing practice which is part of the celebrations of the Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos. We can also think of the Buddhist mandala and the Japanese tray art, which are all made with sand, patterns made with sand with an ephemeral quality to them. There is the land art movement, or the earth art movement, that happened sometime in the 1960s to 1970s in America. And what happened as part of this movement was artists created sculptures and installations with things found in nature. So they used twigs, leaves, branches, pebbles, rocks, and they created these beautiful patterns, beautiful installations, and they just let them be. And over a period of time, these sculptures, these installations naturally eroded away and went back and became one with nature, became one with where they came from. This art, TandulaKusumaValiVikaara, and its various iterations have traditionally been passed over from generation to generation. Like Tati and my mother passed it on to me. There is little to no information available on how this art form originated. However, mention of this kala in ancient epics and texts and oral traditions is an indication that it has existed since time immemorial. Given the ephemerality of this art form, one also cannot find them in archaeological excavations. However, some historians suggest that the beginnings of this kala could have happened during the Indus Valley civilization, which can be dated back to around 3200 BCE. Chennai. Chennai is a city in the southern part of India, and a city like Chennai has epitomized this kala as the oldest living street art. It's very common to find huge columns, not just outside homes, but at the gates of communities, at the gates of corporate buildings, commercial plazas, even outside schools and colleges. Chennai also has a column festival, which in fact happens around the time of Pongal, which is right now, where people from all over congregate and draw columns all over a street that has been blocked off for this festival. Perhaps also exchanging little tips and tricks of their own. Speaking of exchanging tips and tricks about your art, I'm recollecting how it used to be with my mother and a lot of other women from that generation. I remember whenever she used to look at a column that she appreciated, that inspired her, she would just stand there observing that column astutely, absorbing it, reading through it. She was just reading through that column so deeply and allowing it to inspire her creation intuitively. It was as if in that moment that she was with that column, there was something that moved within her. There was a sort of a transformation. There used to be her eyebrows furrowing and a smile gently emerging. And when she felt like she has engaged with it enough, she would then get out of that zone and move on. And I've seen this happen with also a lot of other women around that time. Similarly, when she would think that she's come up with something unique, and very, very soon after she would find her something that she made or something very close to what she made being made by someone else, she used to not feel angry or annoyed that somebody copied her design. She used to in fact feel very happy and proud that what she did inspired another person, inspired a new creation, a new design. The women, I've never seen them speak to each other. It was they speaking to the creations that they made, to the columns they made. A sort of a knowledge exchange happened through what they created. Today we have several people who identify as column artists, rangoli artists. But those women who have been making these columns since time immemorial never call themselves artists, despite practicing and surrendering to this process diligently every single day. I wonder if the reason this kala has thrived for all these years, the thousands of years, I wonder if it is because it was never separated as an art, and instead it was just imbibed by the practitioners as a part of their being. We live in a world where we talk about ownership rights, copyright laws, and protecting your creation, protecting your art, your artistic practice. And yet it feels like we have only been engaging less and less with art. Moreover, now we also have AI creating art for us. When we insulate art, in the name of preserving art or artistic practice, when we insulate it and isolate it from the ecosystem and put it in a separate cubicle, codifying it, are we really creating an environment for the art form to thrive, or are we pushing it towards dying a slow death? And how do we really preserve the practice of art? I guess the only way to do it is by practicing it more and making it a part of our being, like our ancestors did. Anyway, if something similar to this kala, TandulaKusumaValiVikaara, exists in a part of the world where you come from, no matter where you are, which part of the globe you are in, I would love to hear about that ritual, that art, that practice. If you're from India and any iteration of this art, it could be kolam, it could be alpana, is practiced where you come from or you practice it, and there are those symbolisms, metaphors, folklores associated with it, I would love to hear that from you. Do share your thoughts with me, and I will see you again next week with yet another ancient art or kala from the Chatushashti Kala. Thank you.